Sam, we talked about awareness in our last segment. Let's talk a little bit more about technology. You can't talk about something like disaster preparedness without all the advancements that we can use in our favor now, apps that might be available for our listeners and viewers.
Yeah, to think where we've come from, right? Just sirens, you know, scattered around town, to now smartphone apps. You know, that's sort of the latest craze when it comes to emergency preparedness. And we certainly have several really good sites that you can go to and find some of these disaster preparedness apps. So everybody these days, right, the smartphone, we know where to get them. If you go to ready.gov, they have a lot of really great apps that can be downloaded to your smartphone. Many of them are disaster specific, so if you want information about tornadoes or flooding or hurricanes, you know, you don't have to have just one app that has so much information you can't even really navigate through it. You can get some very specific information. Same goes with the Red Cross, and they've also sort of gone into that realm of some very specific regional disasters that may be happening. So you may know that you're living in a wildfire area that frequently has to deal with that, so you can download those apps. You can also, you know, in a hurricane-prone area. So, you know, you know, so so there's some really cool options for you to have at your fingertips. That also, you know, it's not one or the other. They all sort of are this constellation of stuff that helps people be prepared. And the other interesting thing is that sometimes people are a little apprehensive about how do I download an app to my smartphone? How do I use it? Well, FEMA's created this really fantastic PSA that helps people understand how to use those apps, how to download those apps, and I think it's something that the viewers would really enjoy seeing.
All right, we'll take a look.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know, wherever you are.
Letterman has his top 10 list. We have a top 5 list of things you should really do. What are they? Yeah,
well, number one, you got to learn the hazards that can happen in your area. You know, if I'm living in Wisconsin, I don't want to prepare for hurricanes, right? So we want to know, really know.
Like in Louisiana, we just talked about, all the different things.
Exactly. And so the way you prepare for those things is obviously going to be very different. So when you're looking at those, you know, whether it's hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, blizzards, of course, in Wisconsin, we know that far too well. Just learn those hazards. The second thing is build and maintain an emergency supply kit for each member of your family. You know, sometimes we'll have a good supply of food and water, and you'll say, we'll call it good. But you have to understand that every individual in that house is going to need water, food, sanitation items. They may need first aid assistance. So count on each person, not just saying, okay, I've got one jug of water and that's going to keep us good for 3 days. It doesn't work that way. Assemble an emergency supply kit for your pets and service animals. You know, you may have enough water and food for your family for 3 days, but if you're adding 2 dogs, a cat, and something else, there goes your 3-day supply, because you're also using that for them. So make sure you got something for your pets and service animals. Have a little cash on hand, right? So, you know, you can't count on being able to pull that trusty credit card out in a time of a disaster. Some things may need to be paid in cash, and people may not have access to electronics or communications. So cash is king, as they say, when it comes to disasters. And then 5, have a backup source of power. You know, for some people that means an emergency generator. For others it may mean that you've just got some batteries that you can use for, you know,
a radio, flashlight.
Exactly, flashlights, radios, whatever may be the case. So those are really the top 5 things to consider as you're thinking, how do I get myself and my family or my loved ones prepared? Just follow those 5 simple steps and you'll be on your way.
Great information. Again, viewers, listeners, I know you have your pad and pencil and taking careful notes. And again, World mentions again, Sam, but all the information we're talking about tonight available at the AARP website.
Yeah, that's really critical. You know, we give a lot of information out in a short period of time on this show, and a lot of people are like, I didn't catch what he just said, or I didn't catch what Sherry said. So make sure you go to www.aarp.org/RFD. And we'll have a lot of those links to the places we've suggested to go, like for the smartphone apps that we talked about, so that people can get that information at their convenience 24/7. That's the beauty of the web, right? Whenever it strikes you to get that information, it'll be available.
Sam, what about some things that maybe older family members, in fact, they might be under, like Amy Goyer, under a caregiver, and you put the caregiver and an elderly person along with a disaster?
Yep. Well, so mom and dad or grandpa and grandma may not live in the same hometown that you do, you know, and they may have somebody that's coming into their home, helping them, you know, maybe with some just very basic necessities or some very specific healthcare needs. That person you almost have to consider a member of your family and include them in all the planning for any disaster preparedness that you're doing. You're going to want to have a communications plan with them. You're going to want to make sure they know exactly where to go in case of an emergency, who to call. Maybe there's somebody locally they can contact as well. So all of those things that you'd normally do for your friends and family, you're going to have to do for your caregiver. Sometimes that is a family member, you know, and they're an integral part of developing that disaster plan, but sometimes they're not. And so make sure that that's a part of the thinking. And of course, AARP has some tremendous caregiver tips and tools on our website. And of course, you can link to those as well through the aarp.org/RFD website. And, you know, Amy Goyer has been on the show many times and provided us a lot of great information. And disaster preparedness is just one of many areas that we have to consider when it comes to caregivers.
Sherry, before we go to break here, just kind of, it's good to have you here. And from Alabama, again, it's one of those states along the Gulf there. You can get it all. You get the hurricanes and the floods and the tornadoes. And that's an ongoing preparedness situation in your state.
It sure is. I mean, it's especially the tornadoes. We were right in the tornado alley.
You don't think about that, but
we are. Yeah, and everything goes. When things go, it's cell phones as well. I mean, everything, that communication goes down, and that's the importance of everybody knowing how they're able to reach you and where the primary stations may be, which most times are a hospital, to be able to call in. But, you know, the thing we focus on a lot are our disabled folks that are in power wheelchairs. When that power goes down, that chair doesn't operate. So it's real important you make sure that the local authorities know that you have a loved one in your home in a power chair.
Very good, yeah. And like any other state, Alabama, if folks want to get a hold of someone in their state along with FEMA, they can certainly call the state office.
They sure can.
Alabama, Wisconsin, and they would be able to help these folks as they want to prepare as well, right?
Sure do. They have access to many, many resources that will help you out.